Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled board meeting of the Akron Public Schools Board of Education. Before we get started, we just wanted to take this brief moment to say happy belated birthday to Superintendent Christine Fowler-Mack. And so, happy birthday. It was something we planned on doing last meeting, but we failed to do that while we were still rolling. And so we wanted to do that today. And so we had to do it a little bit bigger. So with that being said, we're going to call this meeting to order at 5:35. And we'll start with, 5:33. We'll start with a roll call. Mr. Pendleton?
Dr. Akbar?
Here.
Ms. Autry?
Present.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Present.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And wanted to acknowledge Mr. Alexander, who unfortunately couldn't make it today because he's a little ill. So we're going to go ahead with the rest of the agenda and hope that he feels better. And we will go, if you're able to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to ask Ms. Autry if she doesn't mind leading us.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next, we move to community and school reflections. Any community and school reflections from the board? Ms. Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. So since we last met, I had the pleasure and opportunity to visit several of my schools in the East Cluster. Starting off with East High School, I want to thank Mr. Nolan and his team for opening up their doors for a visit and sharing some of their numbers with me. I was happy to learn that all of the staff over there have set some personal growth plan goals. I was able to visit Mrs. Kramer's graphic design class, Ms. Blankenship's 8th grade language arts class, where they were reading The Telltale Heart. So I remember that story.
Wow.
Also, I was able to visit Ms. Keller's class, which is DECA, Entrepreneurship. I was able to visit their school store, which was bustling. They had a nice little system going. They were very appreciative of the recent electronic payment options that they have, which increased their sales by 60%, so they were really happy about that. And then I ended my day there. The 9th graders had the opportunity to have 2 alumni speakers from the class of '08. So they were there, very informative and engaging. And so thank you to those alumni for doing that. Also, I had the opportunity to visit East Middle School's pep assembly. And congratulations to the 7th graders over there who won the pep assembly. Very excited, very energetic. And then just also a special recognition of the recent passing of a middle school football coach over there, Ramon Fields. Told he was very beloved over there and a member of their safety team as well. Also visited Mason CLC. Thank you to Mrs. Coaches and her staff as well. I visited Mrs. Gromley's art class, where I was able to make a monarch butterfly along with the other students there. I was able to visit Mrs. Kern's 6th grade class, and she is, that's the only 6th grade class at Mason. This is her first year teaching all the subjects, so she's doing well with that. She's a math person, so this is all new to her, but she was doing it really well. They did haunted house stories, so they were really creative with what they were sharing throughout the day. And also a special thanks at Mason, they recently, every student in the building received a brand new coat, hat, scarf, socks, and blankets, courtesy of First Congregational Church of Akron. So really good partnership over there. And then lastly, was able to visit Robinson CLC. And again, thanks to Mr. Lane and his staff for welcoming me there. I saw a lot of the PACS signage over there. I know that's something this board voted on previously, so it looks like it's being utilized quite a bit over there. I was able to visit Mrs. Marcus' first grade class where we did phonics and vowel sounds, which was really cool, brought back memories. And I was able to witness in real time how they operate with their reading over there. I saw intervention specialists come in and grab students up, and they took them to a separate space. And I saw them watching the clock, and they fit in so much in that little bit of time. And it was just really engaging. The teachers there were just, again, utilizing their time. It just makes you respect teachers all the more. So thank you so much to Mrs. Holliday over there, who was shared with me in her classroom, and also Mr. Brown, art teacher, where I made a really cool pumpkin, and I got to show the kids that I can do graffiti, and so that was fun. And then Mrs. Sarah, who is an educational assistant over there, it was also nice to witness her. I got to see our special ed class as well come over and do art, so that was nice. In addition, very busy week. Able to visit Dream Day last week. I want to say a special shout out to Mona Lisa for making sure I got to the right place. She said she was going to be listening for that, so shout out to Mona Lisa. And then also Project Grad Gala was also nice. Continued thanks to Project Grad for all that they do for our students in the Bookville and the East clusters. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was amazing. Any other community and school reflections? Mr. Perry?
So I didn't do as much as Diana, for sure. Mine is brief. I actually went last week to the STEM middle school down here in downtown Akron. I had never been in there. It's not in my cluster, obviously. But my fourth grader is looking to go to STEM next year, and so they had an open house. And I was able to see all the teachers that were there. And apparently there's a Chinese version of hacky sack that I tried to play. And I'm not very good at it. I'll just tell you that I had the whatever it's called, on my feet, and I was trying to bounce it up and down, and I couldn't do it very well at all. So that was kind of embarrassing for me. But they had a lot of robotics that were out, a lot of teachers that I was able to speak to and see the school, and they're doing a great job over there. It looks like a very nice place. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jackson?
I didn't raise my hand. How you know I had something to say?
Because you almost
But I do.
almost beat down Mr. Perry before I called on him. So
Thank you, Mr. President. Since the last time that we met, I too had the opportunity to attend the Project Grad Gala, and it was a wonderful experience. Not simply because of the beautiful gowns and things of that, but the mission behind what Project Grad has done and continues to do for over 20 years. Now I think it's like 25 years or 20 years, and how they're pouring into our young people. Also, I was so happy because, this year, as you know, I represent the Bookville cluster, and Mary Outley Kelly was honored this year, and it was just a wonderful thing to see her past principals, because she was once a principal at Krause, and then those who became principals after her and her teachers, that whole team was there in support. So I think that says a lot to leadership and character, and also togetherness, because, we're better together. So I thought that was really great to see teachers, administrators, all together supporting one of our own in such a capacity. I also loved hearing the testimonials, I would say, of the students. Project Grad did a really great job of having the students up, on the screen there. And it was a young lady that graduated from Bookville. I think her mother's last name was Sibley, I believe it was. Jordan Sibley. Wow. Jordan Sibley. Excellence definitely looks different. When she began to talk about the impact of her experience and her journey of being a member of Project Grad and what that has meant to her, and how the educators poured into her to make her dream bigger, try greater, imagine greater, and obtain greater, basically, is what she talked about. And she talked about how even going to college, how she was discouraged from going into her field, but then how, in fact, she excelled in her field, because the reality was she linked it back to her high school experience of thinking not that she could not, but absolutely she could. And she pressed forward, and now she's successful, and she's in baking, and she's dealing in a diversity area. She's recently purchased her first home, and she is the first college graduate of her family, as I understand it. And I told her mother, I said, let me hug you and your daughter, because what a wonderful thing. And I want to say congratulations to all of you, administrators, principals, teachers, counselors, because it truly takes a village. And it's those encounters, those random encounters when we pour into children that gives us those type of outcomes. So I was excited about that, excited about the young man who said his grandmother told him, no, yeah, you want to take advantage of this opportunity. And he was actually the keynote speaker. Somebody gonna shout out that name too. I can't recall his name, but he also was a graduate. He's one of the first graduating classes of Project Grad, and he was a young man who spoke, and he's doing very well. And I believe he and his wife has even made a commitment to donate a scholarship from he and his wife to Project Grad. So that lets you know the great things that that organization is doing. Additionally, I had the opportunity to meet and talk with Bookdale's golf team as a result of going to Tyertown. Well, how exciting is that? When we talk about the different experiences that we're opening our learners up to and the excitement behind that, I really want to thank Tyertown for their willingness and continued support of young people within our city, and also giving them an opportunity to hone in on a skill like golf. When I talked to the members of the team, they seemed very excited, very engaged about what was before them, and I'm just excited to be a part of such a wonderful movement in Akron Public Schools. I believe in what the schools are doing. I believe in the vision of the schools, what the teachers are doing, and I've had the pleasure, many of you in the audience, you wonderful administrators, I've had the pleasure to come into your buildings and just feel welcomed, and that helps me to just stay on the field and continue to encourage and feel that excitement, because it's here, and great things are happening. So I just want everybody to be encouraged, and I'm glad for you sharing your reflection, because it's a good thing when you can be around this type of stuff that's happening, when you see it manifesting, because good things are coming. There are fruit, right? And the Word of God says, a tree by its fruit. And what we're seeing is Akron Public School is producing good fruit. It is not all bad. There is good fruit, and you all have a stake in that fruit. So that's all I have to say for today. But I may take some golfing classes, too, with the book students.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jackson. Anyone else? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will go to the request to address the board. We do have one request to address the board from Mrs. Minnie Carter Page from the Akron School Administrators Association. So if she's welcome to come to the podium. You have 3 minutes to provide your remarks, and we will give you that opportunity now.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to the Akron School Board members. This evening we are here on behalf of the Akron School Administrative Association, known as ASAA. We are the current board members here, and we have Jennifer Sibbett, who's going to be our voice for the next 3 minutes, 2.5 now.
She can have her own 3.
Thank you, Minnie Carter Page. Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to share a little bit about who we are. We are administrators representing the local Akron chapter of the Ohio Public School Association of School Administrators. Our dedication is to the advocacy and welfare of its members. Our mission is to provide high standards of leadership through professional development, political astuteness, legislative influence, positive public relations, and collaboration with related organizations. Our organization works to bring about a more complete understanding of the objectives of elementary and secondary level school administrators. We work for continuous improvement for all school levels. We promote professional growth and status. We are open to any person who is employed on an administrative contract in an elementary school, secondary school, or central office. This includes, but is not limited to, principals, assistant principals, athletic directors, activity directors, deans of students, assistant superintendents, supervisors, directors, coordinators, and college professors. Finally, to cooperate with organizations who share mutual interest in promoting the cause of quality education. We are here today to share with our superintendent, Ms. Fowler-Mack, how much we appreciate her and to let her know that we as administrators in the district support her. Thank you, Ms. Fowler-Mack, for all that you do to make us feel that we are seen, valued, and heard throughout the district. We want you to know that we support you and respect you as our leader. Thank you for having a vision that we can connect our scholars, staff, teachers, and families to each day. In addition, we want to say thank you for your school visits. It means a lot to us that you take time out of your busy schedule to visit not only our schools and administrators, and that you spend time talking to our scholars and parents as well. Thank you for meeting with our ASAA board each month and answering our administrative, sometimes challenging questions. This tradition has continued since 1974. We just wanted to take a moment to say you too are valued, seen, and heard. Thank you.
In addition to our board members that stand here, we also have several members that are in the buildings that are also members of the organization, and we just ask they raise their hand to let us know who they are and what part they are in ASAA. We thank you. Thank you. Can we get a picture, Ms. Fowler-Mack, with the board?
Yeah, that's what I say. Any other boy shopping in the tag?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Extra 30 seconds.
No problem. Thank you very much to our members of ASAA. We will now move to recognitions, and I'm going to first turn this over to Superintendent Fowler-Mack, and then she'll turn it back over to me.
Excellent. Wow. So thank you, administrators. I mean, this feels like you say something nice to me. I have lots of nice things to say about you all. So really excited to have our heroes, here in our board meeting today, because we don't often enough get a chance to thank you as principals, as school administrators, for all that you do for our scholars, for our staff each and every day. But October is National Principal Appreciation Month, and so at least a time is set aside to recognize your accomplishments and your service to all involved. You are loyal, you are innovative, you are selfless, you are service oriented, you exercise influence each and every day. Again, to make sure that our students, each of our students, has what they need. You are the keepers of our vision. You are closest to teaching and learning, to the relationships with families and with our teachers on a day-to-day basis. And that's not always easy. But despite it all, you continue to set the tone for us to remain positively focused on the needs of our students. You solve problems, you celebrate success, you provide support, you nurture relationships as you coach, as you guide, as you lead, as you really push for excellence, and in our case, excellence through equity. So there are days, I am sure, especially in this day and age, I walked in your shoes at one time, but never today. So, we recognize that today it is much more challenging of an environment to lead within, but you do so with the smile, keeping our students both in your heads and your hearts. And we want you to know that we see you. We see your efforts. We're here to support you on a day-to-day basis. But above all, you are absolutely positively appreciated. And so not only for the month of October, but definitely as we wind down here in October, we want to say everyone in this room, from the administrative team around the sides of the room to our leaders here at the table through our Board of Education, we appreciate our principals and we celebrate you. So round of applause. So we not only want to just recognize you in the collective sense, we want to call your name individually. And so board members are going to call the names of the principals that are in their cluster. If you would please come forward, and we would like to give you that certificate. So we're going to start with Dr. Akbar.
Thank you very much. And I also wanted to share on behalf of the board how much we appreciate our principals before we share individually your names and highlight you and recognize you in that way. We know that our principals are many things, and one of those things is consummate professionals and leaders. But you're also called on to be a coach. You're called on to be spiritual advisors sometimes, cheerleaders. You are also, in many ways, the mirror of your school, because your school has many different aspects of your community, and so you are the leader of that community. You also are called to be a problem solver, from runny noses all the way to challenges with where students need to be placed in the school, any type of instant malfunction. You are there to be that leader. And so we wanted to tell you that we appreciate you, that you are a value added to our district, and you are truly individuals that we aspire to inspire our children. So thank you very much for all that you do and for setting the tone and the culture in your buildings. And that is not something that we should take lightly, because the success of our students and our schools start with that positive, dynamic principle. So thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to start with my schools, and then we'll go to Dr. Hall and end with Mrs. McKittrick. So we'll just go around the table. And so first, we have from I Promise, Mrs. Tawana Ham. Say again?
If they're not here, you can just go.
Oh, you want me to go up there? Is that what you're asking? Oh, okay. All right, can you hear me? All right. And next we have a principal who I keep trying to get connected with, and we will do that really soon, Mrs. Julie Schmidt. Okay, we still keep missing each other. Amanda Morgan. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Next, we have Rebecca Green Palota. Did I say that right? Palota? I think I said that right. Please correct me. And when I visited, that's exactly how she was. Next, we have Thomas O'Neill. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Congratulations. From Bridges, Stephanie Davis. And last but not least for me is Mrs. Popa.
schools. Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
next we'll have Cheryl Paradise from APS Online. We want to recognize her as well. So we got to get her.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Okay, so I'll be a bit different. I'm going to ask you to come and stay, and then when we're done, I'm going to ask someone to take a picture for my own posterity. Okay. All right. Now let's see how many of you are here tonight. So attendance matters, folks. Attendance matters. So I'll be tracking who's not here for my cluster tonight. I'll be out in those schools next week. So expect a report out. I'm only half kidding, by the way. I really am. Okay. All right. So we are. So number one, Mr. Matthew Doslack. I don't see Mr. Matthew Doslack. I know him fairly well, so I'll be out of case again next week. All right. So let's applaud. Let's applaud Matt anyway. Those of you who know Matt, he's a good guy. All right. Next, Miss Tina Lowry. There we go. I'm going to clap you all the way up. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Here you go. Thank you. And please stay, please stay. And the next one, I'm going to have fun with the name. Mr. Daniel, I want to say Casanova, but it's really not pronounced Casanova. It's pronounced Casalinovo. Please. Have you considered legally changing your last name to Casanova? I mean, it was a great song too back in the day.
Yes, yeah. That was played all the time during football practice.
All right, next we have Miss Sarah Core from Resnick CLC. You're very welcome. I love your glasses, by the way.
Thank you. It's the last week of October in elementary. If you know, you know.
That's right. Next we have Miss Jessica Sachs. So there's a pattern here. The schools I've been to, those folks have not shown up tonight for this. Okay, all right. Let's see. All right. Last but certainly not least, Miss Diane Floyd. All right. All right. So camera, please. Camera, please. Can someone take a picture? And all right. Yeah. I'm gonna stand right in the middle of the hall, right next to Mr. Casanova. Just kidding.
Thank you.
Appreciate you very much. Thank you so very much. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Mr. Perry, you want to go? Yeah, go. Yes.
So I won't put you on the spot like Derek did, but we have Lynette Stevens from Firestone Park Elementary. She here? My good friend Grace Tomei from Glover.
Oh, yeah.
Patricia Stauffer from Mickey Bright. I'm sorry, I haven't. I promise you that. I absolutely will. Yes, sure, absolutely. Jennifer Douglas from Boris. Farron Franco from Pfeiffer. You're very welcome. Rebecca Casiopo. I'll mess it up. Reimer. I'm not the only one, right, Rebecca? I'm not the only one. Congratulations. Jennifer Sibbett from Salem. Congratulations. Dave Curzon from Ennis. And Charles Morrison from Garfield. There he is. Yep. Good to see you. Good job. Right in front. Get a picture. Yeah. Get in the middle here.
We're trying to do
a picture. A picture. If Derek can do it, I can do it too.
We need to scoot down.
Let's
Good?
go. Good?
Everybody ready?
Are we ready?
Sure.
All right. Oh, wait, sir. You're so back. One, two, three. One more.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for your patience since Joe was so anxious to get up here. So I have this honor of introducing each principal. However, do you want me to call out the names, even if they're not present, and just start with Mr.? Okay. All right, so I'll start with Mr. Christopher Haynes. Of Schumacher CLC. I've had the pleasure to be in his building. Great things happening. I'm going there this Wednesday with donuts for Miss Neff's wonderful class. So I'm excited. Also, you can stay up here. I guess everybody gonna take it. This is not my cutest day. I mean, I wish I would have known y'all was gonna do all that. But next is Miss LaMonica Davis. What's that? Yeah. Miss Tara Bruce Bentley. And Miss Lucretia Beecher. And I have had the pleasure to visit each of these schools, and all of these principals are doing excellent things. I also visit some of you all school, great things. So shout out to all of you administrators. I just get so happy about it when you see the real thing happening, excellence in motion in real time. So congratulations.
Thank you. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure to recognize the following principals from the East Cluster. From Barber CLC, Renea Williams. From David Hill, Tina McIntyre. From Mason CLC, Renee Coaches. From Robinson CLC, Anthony Lane. From Cyberlink CLC, Regina Llewellyn. From East CLC, Walter Nolan. I'm loving that jacket.
Okay.
Nonsense. All right. Congratulations to the East CLC principals and all of the principals. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah.
Good evening. So I have the pleasure to announce the principals from the North Cluster. So we will start with Findlay CLC Principal Teresa Asando. From Forest Hill, Juanita Rogers. From Harris Jackson, Andrea Aller. From Leggett CLC, Gregory Blondheim. From Jennings CLC, Dawn Harper. And from North, Catherine Rodacker. Thank you for everything.
Yes.
Nope.
Okay. You can do the last.
Thank you very much. So first I'm going to do the ELIT cluster and then ask all of the specialty principals to come back up so that we also have a picture not shown up by everyone else. All right, so for the ELIT cluster, we have Betty Jane, principal, Jennifer Lucas. Okay, Hatton, Darcy Forshee Canadito. Okay. Ritzman, Joan McIntosh. Windermere, Megan Lee Wilfong. Hopefully I said that correctly. No, you won't make that mistake again. Hire Larry Bender. From ELIT, Kim Sabetta. All right, so we'll take a picture and then I'll ask all the specialty school principals to come back up.
It's just me. It's just me. You said, I didn't know I was hired.
It's okay.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Now if our specialty school principals can come back up. You can come a little closer. Come a little closer. Okay.
We're good. 1, 2, 3. One more.
Nice. Do you mind if I dismiss them? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as we are clapping you up, we are going to take a 2-minute recess to allow you to leave. We will not sound a bell because I'm sure you've heard that already. But again, thank you very much, and we will return at 6:14.
All right. You're ready?
I'll just turn over. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the regularly scheduled board meeting from our brief recess of celebrating and honoring our principals. We have returned, and we'll do a communication presentation for Project Rise, and I'll turn it over to Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Akbar, and good evening again, members of the board. One of the things you know that we try to do at each of the board meetings is take the opportunity to highlight one of our programs, services, or even some of our progress that we're making through our strategic initiatives. Tonight, we're very pleased to share a service that really receives great and widespread recognition because it's meeting the needs of students that are vulnerable yet who have the ability to thrive. And so we're going to talk about Project Rise today. And so Shayna Carino is here, and she will start us off, she and her team. Hi, Shayna. Good.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Shayna from Project Rise here in Akron Public Schools. My office is around the corner, so if you're ever in the building, stop by and say hello. Thanks so much for giving us the time here to highlight what we do here in Project Rise. We are the department within our district who works with families and students who are experiencing homelessness. So a little bit of, about how we define homelessness here in Akron Public Schools. We use the McKinney-Vento definition of homelessness, which was decided by the McKinney-Vento Act 35 years ago. And it differs slightly from what you'll often see in the community or the housing HUD definition of homelessness. So just like the community definition of homelessness, we identify students who are in shelters and students who are unhoused, but we also identify students who are doubled up and living with friends and family because they've lost housing or lack appropriate nighttime residence. So our mission at Project Rise is to ensure that Akron Public Schools homeless youth have the same educational opportunities as all students. And sometimes we get the question of why. Why does your program exist? Why do you work so hard to identify students? We spend a lot of time throughout our district training district staff on the definition of homelessness, who we are, how we can help their students, and sometimes we get the question why, and we want to explain a little bit about why we do what we do. In the New York Times just a few weeks ago, they highlighted McKinney-Vento programs in an unusual way. A lot of times when you hear about youth homelessness, you don't hear about the work that programs like ours do in the school. So I have a quote from that article here that really sums up the why. Homeless students have the worst educational outcomes of any group, the lowest attendance, the lowest scores on standardized tests, the lowest graduation rates. They all face the same cruel paradox. Students who do not have a stable place to live are unable to attend school regularly, and failing to graduate from high school is the single greatest risk factor for future homelessness. So, and to add to that, the personal note for us here at Project Rise is oftentimes when we hear of things that happen in our community here in Akron, some tragic things, fires, shootings of students, we usually look, one of the first things I do as an administrator here at Project Rise is to look and see, did we work with that student? Did they experience homelessness? And more often than not, the answer to that is yes. And so not only are our students experiencing these outcomes, but they often aren't living in safe conditions. And so when I think of the why, I think of those reasons, and I think the more we have the opportunity to identify our students, then the more we have the opportunity to help to remove barriers to education and to remove housing barriers. So the way our program works quickly is that we get referrals from anywhere. We'll take them from anywhere, but typically our referrals come from school staff, shelter rosters, the central intake for shelters here in our community, and enrollment forms if parents will check that they're living without housing. Then our intake department will identify students over the phone, in person, at the shelters. They'll have either phone meetings or in-person meetings. And we remove those initial barriers for education. So that's when we set up transportation, make sure they're enrolled, make sure that they don't have fees, holding up transcripts from other schools, and take care of what they need. And then they end up on a caseload for an academic advocate to provide ongoing supports. So what I'd like to do to really highlight our work is just a minute for each of the staff members who are doing just phenomenal work all day, every day, and you'll hear best from them an example of each of a case that they've worked on, or example of their work. And first we'll have Kylie talk about, and this will highlight kind of a little bit more what we do in a real sense.
Okay, hello, my name is Kylie, and I am the academic advocate for the Bookdale and Firestone cluster, and I also have 3 of the Garfield elementary schools. I've been with Project Rise for about 5 or 6 years, and when thinking about a family I wanted to highlight, it's one of our most recent families because we really brought in a lot of community partners and networking with this family. We identified this family due to inadequate housing. mom, the water utilities, the water got shut off and the electric was shut off. So she actually was using an extension cord. Her neighbor was allowing her to plug it in her house and bring it over to her house to meet some needs. So after kind of touching base with mom, I realized this is definitely, she needs a lot of wraparound supports. So myself and Darlene from our resource room, DLM, which is up the street at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, decided to have weekly meetings with the parents. Sometimes the kids would come in because we identified them at the end of last school year, and then over the summer we would still meet. So we have weekly meetings, and then every so often we bring in some of our community partners. So a few ways we've networked is when the utilities were shut off, the Peter Morin Center was able to pay for her to stay in a hotel. I think she stayed for about 3 weeks until we were able to connect her to be able to turn it back on. During that time, at the end of the last school year, the kids didn't have to miss school. So even though they had to leave their home and now they're displaced in a hotel, we were able to set up transportation for them not to miss. There's a high school and there was a middle schooler at that time. Also, the 3 kids, along with mom, didn't have social security cards. They lost them. So we helped connect mom to that resource. I would send in all of their work, send it in. It kept getting denied. So finally I was like, let's just walk across the street and kind of figure it out. And it worked. She got them all. So that was good. Not only is the middle school student connected to counseling, mom previously was seeing a counselor and wanted to get back into that for herself, for her kids. So she actively is seeing a counselor. And then another partnership is CORE, which is the furniture bank in Cuyahoga Falls. We're able to refer families and unaccompanied youth there directly, but what's hard is they have to have their own transportation. So Craig from CORE has been really great. We can send families his way. They'll pick out the furniture on Saturday mornings, and then he has a truck there that they'll deliver, bring it back to the family's house, which has been a huge help. And then 2 of our most recent partnerships is Spark and Legal Aid. So Spark, the kindergarten readiness program, we have the youngest who is now enrolled in APS kindergarten. She had no preschool experience, no kind of education background before she was enrolling into kindergarten. So a parent connector would come biweekly, I think it was, to DLM. We would meet with mom, and then after that, she'd meet with the student and mom to work on that kindergarten readiness and those skills. And then finally, Legal Aid, which has been a huge help. We can refer families, attorneys take on any case that we give them. And for this mom, there was 4 big factors. So the bankruptcy, SSI, driver's license, and tax returns. And there's been huge progress on all of those. Mom now has tags. She has car insurance. She's able to... she had a speeding ticket and her license was suspended. So through Boston Heights, we were able to get that figured out, and now she can get her license. And then tax returns, mom wasn't getting, the past 3 years, she didn't get any tax returns, no COVID money, nothing. So Legal Aid was a huge help. She has 2 out of the 3 tax returns now, which just helps a lot during this time. So that's kind of a glimpse of a family situation, and then I think Jen is going to do unaccompanied youth.
I almost fell. That would be a great intro. I am Jen Montesano. I cover Garfield High School, Innis Middle School. I cover all seniors who are identified Project Rise throughout the district, and then I also cover all of the unaccompanied youth identified in the high schools. I'm also an academic advocate. My role for the unaccompanied students looks a little bit more like a case management role or when needed. So I wrote my notes, and I will read, which is, I was told that you were updated on a student who moved to the University of Michigan for college this year. While I'm very proud of that work and the efforts, that was pretty easy, believe it or not. That student was motivated. She was academically at the top of her class. She was very mature, etc. I want to take my few minutes to speak to you about more difficult situations that is familiar to Project Rise. I'm going to use the example of Jose. Jose is a refugee with a unique path to Akron. He's an unaccompanied youth living in Akron without a legal guardian. He was placed in his sister's care in Columbus upon arrival to the States, and then moved with a distant aunt here in Akron after domestic issues in Columbus. Last week, Aunt told him he had to find another place to live because he was putting her AMHA housing in jeopardy. After meeting with him at the school, we called Children's Services, we called Safe Landing. At the time, both agencies said he was not an appropriate referral. He is 16. He found a friend in his family that he can stay with and was able to move in with him last week. At this new living situation, we gave him a bed and bedding. We gave the mom gas cards and grocery cards. I've made referrals to legal aid to get him assistance with his citizenship and documentation process. I'm connecting him to Akron Children's Hospital School-Based Health. Shout out, it's a phenomenal program, and to counseling services. Today I was able to work with him to get his own job and family service benefits, which is going to establish some food help for the house where he's staying. We've established processes with these and other agencies to get students the support they need, even when they don't have guardians and are not a legal adult. When I met with Jose today, he mentioned that his grades are not good this quarter. He said that they were much better last year and was down on himself. I reminded him that he is 16 and he has had the burden of finding himself a place to live while balancing school and football. As of right now, Jose has a stable place to live. He has food benefits that he can use to help the family he's staying with. He has the support of school and coaches. While I'm not sure how his story will end, Jose seems more comfortable with the support and the plans that we've created with him. It's an ongoing situation. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Breeson. I do the special programming with Project Rise. And the special programming department provides supplemental educational and enrichment programming for our students. So together with my team, we're able to coordinate these special activities and enrichment programs both at the shelters and out in the community. So we do a tutoring program at the shelters during the week, and it's an after-school tutoring program. We also offer virtual homework help, and also one-on-one tutoring with our doubled-up families as well, so they're getting the assistance. And I'd like to add that most of our tutors are either retired Akron Public Schools teachers or current Akron Public Schools teachers, so that's really helpful so that they have the background and the knowledge about the curriculum and the expectations of the district. So during the summer, we stay really busy and we keep our families out and about. We're trying to combat some of that summer learning loss and also give families some happy memories to keep and take with them. We do all sorts of educational and enriching field trips, take them all over Northeast Ohio, doing all sorts of fun things, getting them out into the parks, getting them out into museums. During the summer, we also did some yoga, both on site at the shelters and out in the parks. And let's see, we stay so busy during the summer that we say that's our favorite time of the year because that's when we have kids out of school and we can really get them interested in some fun activities like arts programming. I mentioned the yoga, some crafts and sports activities, just really fun. So I also wanted to highlight that for the past several years, we've received funding from the Akron Community Foundation, which we are extremely grateful for because this supplemental funding allows us to run an arts program called Arts Can Teach. So with these funds, we're able to purchase tickets for both theater performances and musical performances out in the community. We've also recently used it to provide some music therapy and art therapy on site at Bridges CLC, and we're lucky enough to have some of the art therapists and music therapists there on staff as supplemental Project Rise staff members as well. So also, coming up, we have our harvest dinner, which is held over at Garfield CLC, and the students there actually make, prepare, and serve the food. So we have that coming up. Yesterday, we had a beautiful day out in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park for our Fall Fest. We had 70 people come, and kids got to play games and run around and make fun memories with their parents and do a hike and all sorts of fun stuff. So I mentioned that our teachers are mostly a team of Akron Public Schools teachers, which we love. We also like to bring in the Akron Public Schools family in the ways of presenting to different classes and schools and giving the kids an opportunity to give back. So as you can see here, we've highlighted some of those partnerships as well that are ongoing, and we really appreciate. Thank you.
So the last thing I'd just like to show you guys, this is a tool that we are using in our district now to provide professional development to our staff. The goal of this tool is to educate our staff and even community members on the difficult decisions that homeless families must make when they're navigating the housing world here in Akron. It's a tool that we're presenting next week at a national conference, and I will not have you go through the whole tool. You are welcome to do that anytime on your own time using this link, but I would like to just preview it for you so you see a little bit about what we use in this school as professional development for our program. There's 3 different scenarios. I'm going to just pick the first one and give you a quick preview.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm a 29-year-old mother of 3. I live with my boyfriend, father of my 2 youngest children. I moved out of my subsidized public housing and in with him after becoming pregnant with my 2nd child. He was not permitted to live there with us, and we planned to get married after having the baby. I became pregnant with my 3rd child quickly after the 2nd was born. That is when the yelling started. My parents are also in town, but my father is an alcoholic, and I would rather my children not grow up in the same setting I did. My youngest child is 6 weeks old, and I have not yet returned to my bartending job since having the baby. Things are getting worse at home. We're both tired from having 2 very young children, and it has started to affect my 6-year-old. Kindergarten, and the counselor called to tell me that she's not focused at school and has behavior issues. As her counselor, she is concerned and wants to know how she can help. I know I need to get out of the house. No one is happy, and I'm worried it will become dangerous. My mom is willing to let us stay at her house, but not for long because my dad's drinking got worse the last time we stayed there.
So from here, participants would choose an option, and then they'd continue through this scenario. This will be available to all staff to do at Instructional Improvement Day coming up here in November. They'll learn a little bit about what our families are going through, but they'll also learn about us and how we can help and some different resources in the community. And that, did I just close it out? That was it. There was just going to be a contact page after that. You want to pull it back up? I'm sorry. And a list of our partners. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine. You're good.
Just going to fix my close out.
Thank you very much. Are there any? Yeah. Are there any questions? Just Dr. Hall? Okay, Dr. Hall?
Yeah, I have several questions. The first one was, and these questions are not in order of importance. It's just as I was writing as you were all talking. Can you speak to how many kids are currently enrolled in the program?
Sure.
That's the first question. So how many kids are currently enrolled in some way with the program?
Sure. So the way that McKinney-Vento programs work is you identify students each year. Nobody rolls over into the next year. So our numbers grow throughout the year. Traditionally, in a traditional school year, we usually identify around 2,000 students. And right now, we're on track for about that same amount at about 950.
So, for example, if a student is homeless at the end of the last academic year, they have to kind of go through and be reassessed again to make the same determination that they're still homeless?
So we will reach out to them, but what we need to do is reassess the housing status, and that is the way the McKinney-Vento law works.
Yeah.
We would, obviously, if they're still in shelter, they're going to be on the shelter roster again, and we will reach out to them. But we need to see if they still meet that definition or if they've gotten housed. And we'll mark that along the way, and the students who have not gotten housed, we'll reach out to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So my next question was, and I think this was Ms. Grayson that was giving this part of the talk about some of the summer program offerings. So if I'm homeless at the end of the school year, I don't make another determination that I'm homeless again until the start of the next school year. But we have the summer transition phase. So can you just walk me through, like, those students that are in the summer program, like, how are you determining like who's in the program over the summer? And then you mentioned some of the events that were like at the park system. Do you provide transportation to people as well? Okay, gotcha. And so that's why I asked the question about like, we have to start all over again in the fall because they were.
So for everything in the summer, we used last year's determination.
Yeah.
But most of the summer programs, I'm sorry, I'm speaking for you, Rachel.
Yeah.
But most of the summer programs are geared towards families who are in shelter. So there's no question on whether or not they are still experiencing homelessness because the goal and the participation that we get with families are usually to get out of the shelter for a nice summer activity, summer day. So we're reaching out. We're working with our shelter partners mostly.
Gotcha. And then how many staff? Is it just the 4 of you?
No.
Okay. How many staff?
So we have 12 staff members here, some part-time here that work in our office. And then Rachel's team of tutors who are also Akron Public School students and our therapists and things are about 10.
Gotcha. And then can you speak to turnover? Like, what's the turnover like on your team? I mean, you mentioned that. I think Kylie, you mentioned that you've been here for 5 or 6 years. Is that pretty normal, or because I ask because these kinds of roles, I can imagine there'd be a high burnout rate. So I'm just asking. Is that something that you've seen impact your team?
So, cross my fingers. Luckily, we have just like a really great team right now, and advocates who have been here, Rachel and Kylie, have been here the longest with our advocates. But we just have a really good staff right now. We had 0 turnover this year. I had no new hires this year, no new training at the beginning of the year. So, as there was a lot of change last year in the district, we did have some movement there. But we've been pretty lucky. Got a really good team right now.
Gotcha. And then next one was, so do you track caseload? So is that terminology that you use in this program where you say I have a caseload of 45 kids or 75 kids? And I think this was Miss Montesano. Miss Montesano?
Yes.
Right. Roger that. So because I think you used the word caseload.
And that's, I don't know if everybody does that, but sometimes my role does look a little bit more like a case management with the unaccompanied students. So with the high school students that are on their own, I'm looking at what their needs are right now. Maybe a little bit more involved than I would be with a student who is with a mom or a parent. And then also looking at what are we doing next. So our seniors, what's their plan next year? And want to make sure that we're giving them all the tools to connect to that plan, whether it be college visits or looking at housing, looking at job services, training programs, so on and so forth. So I call it a caseload. I'm a little bit older than some of my coworkers, and I do come from a case management background.
Sure.
So that would be where my verbiage probably falls from.
Great. And the advocates are separated by cluster. So Kylie's Firestone Bookdole. So any students we identify in those 2 clusters are on her caseload.
Okay, so I'm going to reach out. I'm Firestone Cluster Lead, so I'll reach out to you. What was your last name?
It's Berg, B-E-R-G. That's the email.
Okay.
But it's all she's hesitating because she just got married. She's in transition.
So
okay.
She knows her last name.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Which one would you like?
If you're looking for her email, it's definitely Berg. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Roger that. And then my last question is just more holistic in nature, right? So you all gave like some really great individual stories, and that's important in telling the story, right? Like you have to have those in there. The other question, though, that goes along with it, and it's probably what funders are looking at as well. So you mentioned some of your partners. So I'm sure you have this, but what I'd love to see in a board meeting context is sort of programmatic data, right? So what does the roll-up look like? So to your point, we've got 2,000 students in a year. You're at about 950 right now. I'd love to better understand sort of what KPIs have you identified as far as how you measure success in the program,
Outcome measures.
Right, because funders are probably looking at, all right, well, how do I evaluate the value of your program, right? So I'm sure you have those KPIs. I just would love to see you all come back soon, why this is still on top of mind, to hear more from you about that part of it as well. So outcomes, KPIs, and then also whether. By the way, these are not questions I'm asking for your answer now, right? But also just around sort of outcome metrics, right? So so if kids are with you for multiple years, how many of those kids actually graduate from high school? Do you track what happens to them even in the short term after high school? How many of them, because we talk about our college and career academies, right, where we enlist, enroll, employ, entrepreneur, like how many of these kids are actually, getting into one of those 4 areas, right? So again, because I think this is a big deal, and it's why I specifically asked the superintendent, about hearing more from you, and thank you for doing for doing this tonight. So really appreciate it. So want to hear you come back again, because I want to hear, as I say, data is the plural of anecdote, right? Mm-hmm. So these are great stories, and this is a starting point, and also want to hear more about the great work you're doing at the program level, because this program has been around for how many years? 25 years. Mm-hmm. So you probably have a ton of data that you could kind of show and present. And so we just would love to hear more about it. And also too, do you have a private donation recipient sort of arm? So do you fundraise for the program as well?
So right now we're funded with grants, federal grants, heavily. Right. We do take donation funds for things that we can't purchase with grant money. Yeah. And so one of the big things, a lot of community members will reach out to us and say how we can help, and we usually list things that we can purchase that are not.
We also support.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Yes. There's internal.
Because I saw the APS name badge, and I'm like, wait a minute.
We are employees.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes. We get paid for this.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do the things that one of the things that the GAR, for example, will write us a discretionary funding check about once a year, and the things that I almost always purchase with that money are beds. Yeah. There's I'm not allowed to purchase beds with grant money. Talk to federal people about that a lot because they want anything related to learning, and I'm not allowed to do that. So when we get families moving into housing and they don't have beds, all of us have a hard time with that. And so whenever I can purchase beds, I purchase beds. And we have a system for that.
Yeah, because I think you mentioned, I think it was Ms. Montesano that mentioned about purchasing bedding and gas cards, for example. So I was wondering, well, what budget does that come out of, right?
That comes from our McKinney-Vento grant, and 90% of it. And then there were things that were not, there's allowable uses for that funding, and then there are things that we're not allowed to use that funding for. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, does this body fund you enough? That's kind of that's the question that I haven't percolated in my head, right? Because it's a line item in our budget too. Is there more that we can be doing to increase the funding of this particular program? That's part of the reason why I'm asking my questions, right?
I think we're on par right now for what other districts are doing, and we get a portion of Title I funding that's Title I set aside, as well as some of the ESSER funding that has McKinney-Vento allowable expenses. Yeah. Really, the finance department, Todd Adkins, the grant manager, is always like, what do you need? Yeah. And so it's really, we have always had great support from our district as far as that goes, and I've rarely told no when we're working for this student population.
So last comment, I promise. So when you come back, I'd love to see a slide that is more aspirational in nature, right? So if I had additional resources, here are the things I'd want to do with them. So basically kind of a wish list. Would love to see that as a part of a follow-up to this as well. So, but thank you for your time. I definitely appreciate it. It's been fantastic. So just want to thank all of you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just one.
The hard
Sorry, Mr. Perry.
You had a question? Okay.
Yeah. So
Just one.
So
comment.
Mr. Perry did have one other question. Sorry.
Yeah, just one comment and one question. First of all, what a great program you ladies run. Worthwhile, obviously something that's needed in this area and everywhere for that matter. My comment, though, was it's interesting that bedding wouldn't be included in what you would get from the federal grant money, because you can argue you need good sleep to get grades, right? So you would think bedding would be included. My question, though, is I enjoyed hearing about the success story of Andrea and getting the license back and, the tax returns and all that. Do you have stories also about kids whose grades perhaps obviously improve as they go through your program and getting the tutoring and the help they need with that?
I have some stories for that.
Yeah. I'm sure you.
No, for this exact program, because I actually visited a school and it was Firestone Park, and they had a large number, so I'm sure you're familiar, of students that were participating in Project Rise, just because it answers the question. I don't want to belabor the point. However, it was a big thing because of the transient nature of these students. It was hard for them to get to school, so they were truant. It was a big issue, and
Project Rise stepped in and helped with, like, I think it was either busing or something with transportation gas cards, yeah. And so the principal at the time did say how those, the efforts of Project Rise did benefit and led to improved attendance, which then led to improved academics, just overall well-being of the student at the time. And I can't remember the numbers, it was last year, but it was like a good portion of students that, and they saw a drop-off of them being an issue and even happened to, after you guys service them, so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Our take is really to get them to school and get them connected with all the great things that our district has to offer.
Sure.
And so programs in our district sometimes are underutilized by our students. Things like Akron After School, you know, they may not get the sign-up sheet. Mom may not have looked through the book bag or didn't make it home. And so if we transport the kids, if we remove attendance barriers, if we remove barriers to get to programs like that, right now we're transporting 40 kids home from Akron After School. So they have the opportunity to participate in an after school. So our district, the frontline people are doing so much academic support that we need to take away barriers to those things, and so they can take part of them.
So I'm sorry. I did have one more kind of comment, which was you gave the stories about Andrew and Jose today. It made me wonder how many kids are you losing though, right? How many kids are actually falling through the cracks, right? So for every 2 stories like Andrew and Jose, how many stories have a much sadder ending? Which made me think of in healthcare. That's why I was fixated on the word caseload, because you have care managers that carry a caseload, and then their goal is to graduate patients, right? Whether that be 3, 6, 12 months, right? So it made me think as far as like, are you tracking like how many kids so how many referrals you get, and then also the key thing is how many are you actually able to make contact with, right? Because that's tough, right? For every 100 referrals you get, you might only contact, I don't know, I mean, I'm just making up numbers. Is it 20? Is it 50? Is it 80? Like, because with this population, I can imagine it's hard to get and stay in touch with folks. So that's why, again, and not for now, but just really thinking through like how many, like what's the referral capture rate? And then also sort of like what are some, like, again, this is why I said about the aspirational wish list, 'cause it really connects back to that. Like how many kids are we losing? And if you had a wish list and a magic wand, could you, what are some of the things that you would want and need in order to capture more of the kids that you're losing? So I'll leave it there. So.
We need time.
Right.
And just so real quick, I'll give a plug about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Me covering all of the high school seniors. I try to do office hours at most of the schools every other week. So I'm trying to be in every single one of the brick and mortar high schools. I prioritize any emergent needs in that building, and then I start pulling kids. So I try to go at their study hall time, not always easy, and then start pulling kids and trying to identify their needs. Talking to the teachers, talking to staff members. The more we are in the buildings, the more we're talking to staff members, the more we're engaging with the teachers, the more emails we get about, hey, so-and-so, Judy said that she had to stay at her grandma's last night, and something else happened. So we get those emails, and then we start our whole cycle over again. So I send it to our intake department, and then we will then get the referral back.
The more helpful Jen is, the bigger her caseload is.
It's kind of shooting myself in the foot. That's all right. High energy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. I also want to just quickly remind all the board members as we do speak to make sure we speak in the mic. We've gotten a few comments about not being able to hear virtually and actually hear too. So with that being said, we're going to move to the next item on our agenda, which is the approval of the previous meeting minutes from 10 October 2022 to 11 October 2022 and 18 October 2022. Is there a motion on the table?
I so move to approve.
It's been properly moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Dr. Hall. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please. Mr. Pendleton.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to personnel recommendations. Madam Superintendent.
Sure. Good evening, board members again. I wish to recommend the approval of the personnel recommendations presented in categories 5 through 16. Amongst those recommendations, Mrs. Autry already acknowledged, but we are acknowledging the passing of Raymond Fields, who has been a security guard with Student Services for 3 years now. Raymond was an East graduate and football player. He was a standout at East when he played for the high school team not that long ago. He looked, as we would say, tough in the uniform, but inside was so compassionate and such a sensitive person. So, and made a wonderful impression of all who he met. Today, we sent out an acknowledgement of his untimely passing and just the comments that came back from staff members who had the chance to interact with him. So we will miss his smile. We will miss his warm personality, both on and off of the job. He was only 22 years old and never met a stranger, as you might say. So he was a wonderful ambassador for our district. So just wanted to acknowledge that embedded within the personnel recommendations.
Thank you very much. That is indeed very sad. With that being said, we'll do a... Wow, that just caught me off guard. We have received the personnel recommendations from Madam Superintendent. Is there a motion on the table?
So moved.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Autry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Perry. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I've got several items I wanted to discuss.
Dr. Hall?
Right. So can we start with item 5.1? This item is talking about a number of, I think there are 5 resignations here, and I just wanted to get some clarity. I know we're in an era where we have that there are teacher shortages, and so when I see 5 resignations that take place at this point in the school year with effective dates in 28 October, 11/1, some of them have already gone past us by 10/11. I just wanted to get some clarity as to sort of what kinds of things are contributing to folks resigning from positions of need within the district. And kind of the part 2 of that is I know that, and Ms. McVeigh, maybe you could clarify for me too, do we still have the 10-year cap on experience when folks are looking to apply for roles here? Okay. And then, so in light of that, that's something I would like us to take up at some point, to consider the ramifications of possibly removing that 10-year cap. Again, we're looking at teacher shortages, and so I know that teachers that have experience and may not want to move to Akron because they're going to lose their years of experience. And so that's something I think that, again, my commentary is meant to keep us market-driven, not market-driving, not market-driven. So again, when I saw the resignations, it just made me think of, okay, what kinds of things are contributing to our resignations, and then also with the comment there being, as an addition, I'd like us to take up, discussion around this 10-year cap on experience and what would the ramifications be for removing that cap. So again, that's the first time I had. It was just trying to get clarity around the resignations and sort of what are the contributory factors when folks resign, partway into a school year, 2 months in. That just seemed odd to me when I saw the dates.
So first, I just wanted to say, sadly, some of those things are outside of our control. Unfortunately, the state controls those. So I know that maybe Madam Superintendent can talk about the 10-year cap being one of those things that we don't control. And then I don't know if Mrs. McVeigh has something to respond.
And by the way, let me just also clarify, I'm not asking for any specifics with regard to any of the folks who have resigned. Was asking.
No, absolutely.
When we're looking at sort of like what are some of the contributory factors that we're looking at.
It is a higher number this year than we've probably have ever seen, like you point out. But teachers are leaving for various reasons. Some have just decided to leave the field of education and seek other opportunities. Some, it might be a spouse who has gotten another opportunity out of state somewhere. Another situation was a family member who was ill, seriously ill, and the teacher needed to resign in order to take care of that. With regard to the salary, that is dictated by Ohio Revised Code, that it's a maximum 10 years of credit when we hire someone from outside the district.
So it's a state cap?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll just add, though, monitoring staffing information as well as enrollment information is something we do on a regular basis, and there is no one prevailing reason, for these. They're usually, as Kathy indicated, very unique to the individual, to their situation, and but we do exit interviews and things of that nature, so we are following up with persons. Some of those that are in this pool of persons are indicating early for next year. So some of these resignations are just letting us know so that we can adequately plan. But we do have a number of staff members for a variety of reasons that have elected to resign. And that is the case, not only in Akron, but actually in the field. It is absolutely everywhere at a time at which, making sure we have a strategy for teacher shortages is paramount. So we are working on that and are happy to come back at a different time and talk about our strategies related to that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because again, when I saw 5 all sort of batched together, it made me think a number of things, but retention was one of them. So how are we, what kinds of self-care options are we providing or supporting that help to keep that rate down? And then again, the tenure cap, was unaware that was a state ORC requirement. So I'm aware that other districts have other incentives that they can provide.
Right. So at a different time, we're happy to come back and really talk about, kind of retention strategies and all of that for both teachers and administrators, because we also are at a point where we're likely to see quite a few retirements as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for answering that question. Kathy, you might want to stay. I just had a follow-up. So 5.5. We, how I am with the when we put a new person, I just like to hear a bit as far as who they are. And we have Christine Schlegg. I think she's the new dean of students.
Yes.
Just wanted to know, is there anything that you want to share about her, and where is she becoming the dean of students at? Do we know?
I had that in my Friday notes.
Yes.
Okay, you can email me offline. That's fine.
Yeah, okay. I don't remember off the top of my head, and I don't have it with me.
All right. Okay, next item. That's all I have, Kathy.
Okay.
Thank you. And the next item I had was 6.3. I'm just checking down the list here. So 6.3 was really, I thought that this was a really positive item here. Talked about the amended increase of hours for teachers, and it looks like this is, clean me up here if I have this wrong. Is Ms. Brady here? Yes. So item 6.3 here. This is essentially the approval of additional special projects for teachers in the special ed area. Am I reading that right?
These are current staff.
Right.
We have that work with both our non-public parochial schools
Mm-hmm.
and our scholarship programs who do write and facilitate the IEP meetings.
Gotcha.
So they just needed an increase in hours because the numbers of students attending those programs has increased.
Okay, so it's tied to that. So we're not doing anything additional.
No.
It's just okay. All right, gotcha. Okay.
Just briefly, sorry, just so that those who are listening can hear, just if I could rephrase what Mrs. Brady said, is that the individuals on this list are individuals who are just getting additional hours because the need is greater. They are current staff that work with us.
Okay, great. And then,
Answer his other question too.
Yes.
Christine, she is being recommended for the Dean of Students position. She has been employed by the district since 1998. Okay. She taught kindergarten at Lincoln Elementary School for several years and then transferred to Findlay CLC in 2007, where she continued to be a teacher of kindergarten. She will be assigned to the open dean's position at Findlay.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Let's see, the next item I had on here was 7.1, item 7.1. So again, I didn't comprehend what was happening here. So I see the extra. So again, there's a number of folks, and the job title is all the same: activity supervisor, all the same rate. And there are some folks who listed on here multiple times. So I guess I just was trying to better understand what was happening here in this section. Because again, I couldn't see. Again, it's the same job title all the way around. So I just was.
Sure.
I guess I didn't understand what was happening here.
Schools are able to identify where they would like to have support within their schools. So some are for clubs, activities, additional lunch duty, things of that nature, working with students before or after school, those sorts of things. So they are given these supplemental contracts, and then they, as a building, decide on their priorities and utilize those to support the activities and operation of the school.
Gotcha. So I guess the reason why I was asking is because I see that we're funding this with ESSER $3.
Sure.
So I was trying to understand, because if we didn't have ESSER 3, these would be general fund dollars, I'm assuming. So I guess we're trying to figure out, like, so these activities that are here, again, it just says activity supervisor, that's all it says. So I was just trying to understand sort of how what's happening here is connecting back to some of the ideas that were kind of laid out in our ESSER plan. Like I know it broadly we kind of have the three buckets: right. Thriving scholars, thriving schools, thriving families.
It sure did. And so one of the things we've talked a lot about is the trying to enhance and expand the degree of clubs and activities to really get students engaged in the life of the school and being able to have increased levels of support. And so one of the things that we have been able to do, not just this year, but also the last few years, while we do have additional resources, is to expand the number of activity supervisors, supplementals that are available at each of the schools. And again, the buildings themselves identify what it is that they feel would be most supportive to students and to get that active engagement. And then teachers step into those supplemental contracts.
Gotcha. So as a follow-up, can we get a revised version of this list sent out that just lists with a bit more specificity what activity they're actually doing? Because again, these are ESSER dollars, and so again, I know there's, at least for me anyway, there's a heightened scrutiny around how we spend these dollars. So I just want to understand, sort of like, for example, Barbara, there's, and by the way, this is the first one at the top of the list, right? So it's just not me picking on Barbara, but there are five items on here. So to your point, Superintendent, if these are things that are above and beyond to address some of the issues we've seen because of COVID, I just, as a board member, I just would like to understand, like, what are we doing? Like, what are some of the activities that are new and different and innovative in the schools that we've identified that we're going to support with ESSER $3? That's the heart of my question here.
Sure, and not all of them might be new or different, but they are the support that the building feels like it needs. So if they feel like they need lunch duty, lunch coverage, or breakfast, some support, so there's some engagement. It might not be fancy and different, but it is what buildings feel like they need to support the operations and to support their student bodies. So we can look into, is there a more detailed list, and I'll see if that's available. If that's available, we'll share it in that way. We can share with you definitely the expanded clubs, because one of the things I'll mention, and I'll just mention it now, our Akron After School programs started just about a week ago, and so we have been able to expand the numbers of offerings that are available for students both in the elementary levels and also our secondary levels. So we can give you a flavor of, with the support of ESSER dollars, what are the new and different clubs and activities that we're offering this year that we haven't been able to offer in the past, and enrollment is up. So how many more students are participating in those types of activities after school, because one of the ways in which we want to support our learners, but also we think it contributes to this notion of youth violence, is by really getting our students actively engaged.
Roger that. Yep, totally understand that. So, so again, just trying to get at the heart of it is trying to delineate between general fund and ESSER $3. And so again, if I didn't have ESSER $3, what items on here would I still be doing? So I guess in essence, what are the ESSER $3 here? paying for that connects back to the plan that you and your team spend a lot of time articulating for us. So that's
Sure.
that's a hard edit.
I'd be more than happy to provide you with
Roger
that. And it's also a matter of what we don't have to spend dollars on, because one of the things we've benefited from is being able to extend our resources in ways that we haven't had to go to the ballot as quickly as we would have because of the ESSER dollars. So it's not always, again, unique and different. Sometimes it is an allowable expense within some of the ways in which we have supported our students, but yet then we don't have to use general fund dollars.
Yep, gotcha. Okay, and then next question I had here was about 7.2. This is general fund as well. So to your point, so this is why I asked the question about 7.1, because 7.2 we had the job titles, we had the specificity of sort of what they were doing. So this made perfect sense to me. So that's what I was looking for for 7.1. So again, no real question, just more of a comment. So these are services that have already begun to be provided as of September. Am I reading that right?
So those are your more traditional for, vocal music director, jazz band, things of that nature, your ongoing supervision or direction of certain types of services. And in the other sense, again, building teams get together and decide on how you will use the ability to compensate teachers for additional supervision and supports.
Okay, gotcha. Appreciate it. And then the next item here was 8.2. The question I had here, and this is a question you're going to probably hear me ask a number of times in this session, because I want to make sure I'm understanding what's happening. And it's the same issue with about 9 other items here. But I'm looking at the effective dates here. For example, in 8.2, and so one of the things I know I've said quite often is I want to make sure that we're not spending dollars before the board actually approves the spending of the dollars. And so when that happens, I get that slips through sometimes. But this particular board agenda was really rife with items where it appears that we have spent dollars that require board approval before the board has actually approved them. That's my interpretation. So if that's incorrect, please clean me up. But that's why I see here in 8.2, there's effective dates here as early as 10/7, and we're 10/24, 10/4. So it looks like we've begun. These folks have already begun, and these pay rates have changed before the board's actually approved it. So that's my comment on that one. I'm trying to understand. And then also 9.1. Same thing in 9.1. This is an effective date of 10/10. 10.1 is the same thing. Effective date, October 17th. I'm assuming that this individual has already begun their employment with us. 10.2 is the same way. 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4. Effective dates early October. 11.5, 11.6, 12.1, 14.2. These are all things that are effective either prior to. There's one on here that's effective today. I think that was 12/1. So it just causes me consternation because, again, the board's responsibility is to be the fiduciary, agent collectively. And so when I see that there are multiple items that are here where we have effectively spent dollars before the board has approved it, items that the board is supposed to be approving, that causes me consternation because why do we have a board if we're not doing our jobs by approving these things? So I guess my ask in all of that is my ask to the senior team is, I know that we have a lot on our plates, but I do think it's imperative to help us do our job as board members that we have these items coming to us prior to us hiring folks and bringing them on board. We should be help us do our job by bringing these to us in a more timely fashion. Because again, we should not be spending dollars before the board actually approves the expenditure of those dollars. So and I will continue to be a hawk about this because it's just not appropriate. So rather than take you through and read out each individual item, I'm not going to do that. But again, I think I've identified the number of items in this agenda And it's why I'm calling it out, because normally I see it happen once or twice every so often, and so I hold my tongue. But when I see it happen with this kind of regularity, all on the same agenda, it's concerning for me. And so that's why I'm calling it out the way that I am. We do a lot of good work in this district. A lot of you in the room do fantastic work. We have a fantastic superintendent, that we're all supportive of as well. And so, but again, the board also needs to be supported by all of you to help us do our job. So please, as I'm looking around the room, please, help us help you by ensuring that these things come to us in a more timely fashion, so that way we're not spending dollars without the board having approved it first, which is what part of what our duty is here. So I think I've belabored that point enough, and so I will cede the rest of my time. That's all I have to say about items 5 through 16. So
thank you very much. Any other comments? All right, hearing and saying none, we will act on the recommendation, the personnel recommendations that's been properly moved and supported. Mr. Pendleton, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. McKittrick?
No on 6.1 and 7.1, yes on the rest.
Thank you. Dr. Akbar?
Yes, abstain. Yes, abstain on 8.2.
And appreciate the board president just hold open the vote for 1 minute for Ms. Jackson to return.
Mr. President, can I amend my vote here just in one small way? Still a yes vote, but it'd be no on 7.1. And Ms. McKittrick, what was the other one that you? And then 6.1 as well. Yes on the balance.
Thank you very much. Do you want to just move forward?
No, we should hold the vote.
Yeah.
Just hold the vote open.
Okay. Okay, there she goes.
We need your vote, Carla.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson, just to summarize, we were at 17.1. We did have a motion, a second. We did have discussion, which you were here for the discussion. And just to summarize, we've gone through all the items in the personnel. And with that, we will ask for your vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to resolutions and motions on the consent agenda. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, I wish to recommend the approval of the resolutions and motions presented in category 22. They are in proper format, and I move for their approval.
Thank you very much. It's been properly recommended for the resolutions and motions on the consent agenda. Is there a motion on the table?
So moved.
It's been properly moved by Dr. Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Perry. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I've got some items here as well, but I'll
Okay.
defer if anybody wants to go before I do.
Dr. Hall, you have the floor.
Roger that. So again, I just want to make this point again. Item 23.9 looks like its effective date is October 17th, right? So again, we've entered into a contract that seemingly requires board approval, and it's begun before the board's approved it. So again, I just at the risk of belaboring it again, it just makes a mockery of these proceedings, in my opinion, that this is 15 times in the same board agenda. Item 2310 is the same exact way, effective date October 17th. So again, I'm assuming these services have already begun to be provided. And so again, just would appreciate these coming to us in a more timely fashion. 2311 says effective October. I don't know when in October, but I'm assuming at some point before the 24th of this month, which is today. So again, it just, it's something that we have to clean up as an organization, and so I think we got to do better on this. So my calling these things out is not me saying that these are improper expenditures as far as the things that we want to spend money on, but the process is improper. So we got to clean this up. So, all right, that's all I've got from a comment standpoint.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. Did you say 23.2?
I didn't say that one.
No, I was just for clarity because I was trying to follow along.
No, I was saying 23.9, 10, and 11. And yeah.
Thank you very much. Mrs. McKittrick?
I want to make sure we're in the right place because we're doing consent agenda, right?
Yes.
We haven't gotten to business affairs yet.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay.
Well, so you've heard my comment on the business affairs
Just
then. So
making sure.
So you've heard my comment about business affairs too. So when we get to that section, you've heard my commentary on that already.
Thank you very much.
I
Anyone else?
beg the pardon of this august body.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Hearing, seeing none. We will accept a motion to accept the. I'm sorry, we did that already. We will do a roll call vote for resolutions and motions on the consent agenda. Mr. Pendleton?
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we move to business affairs recommendations. Madam Superintendent?
Sure. With the concern duly noted, I wish to recommend approval of the business affairs recommendations presented in category 23.
Thank you very much. The business affairs recommendations have been properly moved forward by our superintendent. Is there a motion on the table?
I move to approve.
It's been moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Dr. Hall. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, we will do a roll call vote, please. Mr. Pendleton?
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
No on 23.6, 0.7, 0.9, and 0.11. Yes on the rest.
Thank you. Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to superintendent's report. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. And I'll start where we really have already been. So while we did already talk about our ESSER plan, really had at the heart of it strategies that support thriving students, thriving schools, and actually our thriving community and our engagement in that regard. Through our thriving students, one of the things we have highlighted is we wanted to expand programming for our students. So we are really pleased, both through tonight's agenda, but also in practice occurring throughout the district, that we are on track to be expanding the number of after-school or extended day programs, clubs, sporting opportunities, and activities that exist in our elementary and secondary schools. We will, at some point, we just wrapped up talking about this summer and really looking at the feedback we received from our students, but we are on track to have a significant, I would say, over 30% increase in the numbers of students being involved in these programs. And we also just completed our first issuance of a student experience survey. So we're also trying to really secure and review our students' voice into what it is that they feel that they need to be more actively engaged in the life of the school. So we'll continue on. We're pleased to be able to have the resources to do that, and we really believe strongly it will continue to make a difference. We are continuing to look for additional persons who want to get involved at our secondary levels in our middle schools and high schools. So we have been putting information out into the community to engage in different clubs or activities. I'm told that chess is big right now, so we have a full-scale program of community members that are coming in and playing chess with our students, introducing them to that particular game. So I'm going to brush up on my skills so I can go play with some of our students. But I'm pleased with the effort that's being made with our staff at large, and also our staff members getting involved in these clubs and activities. That too is really, the participation is strong, and so we're pleased about that. Last meeting, I talked about the fact that I was going to be sharing with you a few examples of how it is we are working to enhance our safety protocols and procedures, and knowing that just today, I believe, on the national news, there was yet another incident that occurred that just continues to remind us of the importance of safety as well within our educational process. So our Director of Safety and Security and our Chief Operations Officer have been involved in conducting walkthroughs or safety audits of each of our buildings, and have engaged our local authorities in doing so to make sure our current protocols are being followed, things like the doors are being secured, that safety team members are visible in building, and that attention to physical needs of facilities like door alarms, cameras, and things of that nature are being addressed and are functional. We are fully staffed right now with safety team members, and so we do have them across the system, and all buildings, with the exception of one of our middle schools, do have full-time SROs in place. And so we're looking to make sure that we cap that off so that that is the case everywhere. In schools, too, where we've been experiencing any types of disruptions, whether it be in the school environment itself or whether we're hearing about it on weekends in the neighborhood, at sporting events, things of that nature, we've been really in a timely way, kind of supplementing the staffing at those particular schools, and working with really good communication with our local law enforcement to ensure presence, to ensure that students also know that, you know, our ears to the ground, we're listening. We want to ensure their safety, but we also want them to be aware that there are resources to assist them in working through any challenges that they may face. On November 8th, which is our next professional development day for our staff, we are working even with our safety team. So while the teachers are in professional development this year, so will our safety team members. So we're taking the opportunity to work with other staff to make sure that they continue to grow, are researching best practices, are giving each other feedback. And so you will really at the turn of the year, I believe is it January? January is when we're having the more comprehensive update to the board, but just in light of things that continue to, be in front of us, in working with our students and to be in the national news, I wanted you to know that we do continue to take the safety and security of our schools and of our staff very, very make that a priority, and so we reorganized to be able to do that, and we're taking full advantage of the expertise to improve our practices. Lastly, Be Kind 330. We always try to give you something that's going to make you smile. So you see on the screen that is in front of you, wait a minute, I've got to get my notes here. Sorry. Be Kind 330 is not only spreading through the schools, but here at our administration building as well. We hung tear-off tab papers in common areas in the building. Last year we had them kind of in the elevators and things like that. So in the elevators, restrooms, lunchroom, hallways, so staff could rip off a tag and pass on a kind message to colleagues who benefit at any place where they provide service in our district from encouragement. It was was quite popular to be able to do that. And some staff even collected along the way how many different positive messages of encouragement that they received. This is just another small but impactful example of kindness spreading through our Be Kind 330 grassroots campaign. Every person who gave a message and every person receiving that message was impacted in some way. And so we want to not only encourage that of our staff, but this is a cultural norm for our system. And so we want everyone in the system to be seen, heard, valued, have a sense of belonging. And we believe that we can express that best through acts of kindness. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Madam Superintendent?
Yeah, actually, I had a question.
Dr. Hall?
You said chess. My ears perked up when I heard chess. Did we say where?
We have chess spread throughout. Do you know the program again?
Well, I think the most popular is Jennings.
Yes. Okay.
Jennings. Okay. Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. And so are we also providing instruction too? I just asked because a lot of people claim to play chess and they know how the pieces move, but they can't play chess. So
It is actually through a program.
Yeah.
And I just can't, at the tip of my tongue, say the program, but there is a program, so we are teaching as well. Are you? I was about to say, I can brush up, Dr. Hall.
I think I heard he's signing up for a coach, and
I feel the field trip to Jennings coming on.
Going to
Just let me know when
forego
they're
that
playing.
supplemental pay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Madam Superintendent? Ms. Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I know at the last meeting we voted on that safety grant for new equipment. Is there any time frames? Are we expected to get that this semester, or will it be next semester? Will each building decide what it is they need?
Yes. So in the submission of the grants, and I don't know if you recall those, but in the submission of the grants, we actually detailed out many of those. It had to do with upgrades to cameras, the scanner machines, things of that nature. We can give you an update on those grants because some grants we did receive, and we have applied for a new round of others as well. Steve or Deborah? I'm sure which one would be able.
Now there's on the original grants that went in last year, we received one, and that was the one you heard from about Miller South with the equipment that would go through and allow bags to go through. So that one is in the process of being ordered. It's, I don't want to say a crapshoot, but it's when the item arrives. The last round just was submitted through the efforts of Mr. Steve and Mr. Don and Miss Megan. We have not heard anything yet, and I do not have any idea when those will be awarded. Excuse me, it could be in the next couple of weeks before the end of the year, but they haven't given us a timeline for review. Okay, does that help? And I'm sorry for the bad voice. I apologize.
Not at all. This at that time of year. We'll keep you posted.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Madam Superintendent. We will move to the President's report. I have two items. One of them is just really quickly, and then we have a guest joining us for the other item. So the first item is just wanted to remind everyone that we have pre-work. We have a retreat on October 29th. There's still, I won't name names, but there's still some outstanding homework assignments out there. So just wanted to put that out there so that we all can get our homework assignments done. And if we can have that done by Thursday, I think that would help our consultant pretty well. With that being said, looking forward to the retreat and hope everyone's there on time, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and that includes myself because I'm not a morning person. And then the other item has to do with our treasurer search that has been open. And so we have invited Terry Morgan from the Ohio School Boards Association to join us for an update. and then we'll have some deeper discussions and further discussions after this. So, Terry, thank you very much for joining us here virtually. I can't see you, but hopefully you can hear me.
I can, and I'm here.
Hello.
Hello.
So the floor is yours to provide us an update. We can not hear you that well, so we're going to see if we can get that turned up.
Yeah, it sounded like there was an echo. Well, I want to thank you for giving me a moment of time because I need some direction. We did close the search, and you only had 3 applicants who I didn't want to proceed forward. I suggested putting on a pause so that we could decide next steps. And that's what I'd like to talk to the entire board tonight and get some feedback. My suggestion had been that we redo the timeline, and I sent you an example of basically your search would be open December 20th through January 20th. And I think that allows time for people to get through the fall in their commitment to their current district, have some downtime during the holiday to think about it, and still have plenty of time in January to apply, knowing that they would be able to finish out their current school year where they are and be able to start in a May or June timeframe for Akron City. So that's, I guess, my first question is, does that feel comfortable, and would you like to proceed that way?
Thank you very much for that, Terry, and appreciate your update to us. So I'm going to open that up to the board for discussion. It's not a decision that I can make on behalf of the board. So, Dr. Hall?
Yeah, I guess I'll comment. I mean, I guess the question I have back for you, Ms. Morgan, is what choice do we have? Right? I mean, we can move forward with a pool of candidates that are perhaps not what we're looking for, or we can wait. So I keep waiting for you to say that there's a third option, but I haven't heard that yet. So I guess that's my comment.
Well, and certainly I had that expectation that that's what I would hear, but I didn't hear that that was a good solution. So I wanted to double check on that. I did share interim suggestions today with Ryan to fill whenever he's leaving, and to have some kind of coverage. And I don't know where that is, if Ryan has talked with you about that.
No, I would share, since there's specific names, I would share that with the board in executive session. We do have an item on for executive session as it relates to this.
Okay, great. And then my next thought is, if that timeline works with you, I want to be sure that you're all saving the dates, and I can resend it if you hadn't. But we would be doing screening of those candidates on Monday, January 23rd. Does that date work for everyone?
Yeah, I won't know until I have my work calendar. So
we can definitely poll the board. We just, and also want to make sure, which I think it's not, that it's not our organizational meeting, but I think that's not that meeting. So
well, if you can check that date, February 1st and February 13th would be the suggested dates for first interviews and second interviews to keep you moving. So if you could check those 3 dates, and if they work, everybody save them on their calendar.
So are you suggesting? Say again. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Ruth, because we were going to need that support. So are you suggesting we have special meetings, or are these during our meeting times? I can't tell right now.
Well, the nice part of this is you will be having your organizational meeting in January. So I think you'd have the opportunity to make these regular meetings, but I don't think you want to do them the same time that you have a board meeting with a lot on the agenda. So you can set it as a regular meeting, but on an off day from your normal board schedule would be my suggestion. It's only a special if you haven't set it at your org meeting. So
Right. Yes. And so the February dates were what again? Just say that one more
Sure.
time.
And I'll email this to all of you again, February 1st and February 13th.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. And then finally, I really want to work with your communications director to explain this process and where we have been and where we think we're going. So I wanted your blessing that this feels comfortable to you, that the timeline can work, and then I can work with Mark.
Yeah, I think that the three of us can work together to get that message out. So
Okay.
I'll send
I'll send a couple templates or samples of items to you and to Mark.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Appreciate it. Any other questions for Terry? Any other discussion points on this item? I know it's not what we wanted to hear.
But I also don't want you to settle for less than the best, right?
And I think I concur with that. So I appreciate this, and we'll get back with you on those dates. And if those dates do not work, we'll propose alternative dates.
That'd be great.
And we will be in touch soon. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
No problem.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay. Any other comments or questions about the treasurer search process? Okay, so those are the two items I have for my report. Any further questions? All right, hearing none, we will move to the treasurer's report.
No report.
No report. And now we are moving to item 28, community reports, and in lieu of Mr. Alexander, Mrs. McKittrick, legal contracts and board policy.
No report.
Finance and capital, I'm sorry, are there any questions for legal contracts and board policy? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move to finance and capital management. Ms. Autry.
No report.
Thank you very much. Any questions for finance and capital management? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move to instructional policy and student achievement. Mrs. McKittrick.
No report.
Okay. This is record. Equity Committee, Dr. Hall.
We are going to have no report, but we have a meeting. I want to say it's October 31st, Monday. Halloween.
Thank you very much.
There'll be trick or treat before the meeting starts. Just saying.
Any questions for Equity Committee? Hearing and seeing none. We do have one unfinished item, which is just the beginning of the conversation, so we can get clarity on how we want to move forward. The board voted a few months ago to implement a board council separate from the district council and have two separate individuals or entities. And so the superintendent has put forward a few options for us to explore. How do we want to go about making the decision on this process? Would we like to do what we did with our legal counsel working with us on negotiations where we can do some meet and greets, have some conversations? How do we want to look at all 5 firms on the list or a subset? Just wanted to get your ideas and opinions so that we can move forward.
I mean, I'd like the idea of a subset. I think we're pretty familiar with Retzel and Andrus and Pebble and Wagner already. The other 3, though, Haverfield, is it Gingo, and the law firm Peters, Kalau, and Markakis. I think those are 3 that I'm unfamiliar with. So that's my opinion.
Okay. So even the ones that are listed here that we do have relationships with, that we're familiar with, the note here is that we would have to identify a separate attorney, which is probably one that we are not familiar with. So I think that it still would be prudent for us to meet with that attorney because that would be different than the one we're used to working with.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. So I guess this is just my opinion as one board member. I would rather go with a different firm for a different board counsel. That's just, in my opinion, I think that's more of a best practice. I don't want to stay in the same firm for both in-house and board counsel. I think it should be separate firms. So that's my opinion. But again, happy to abide by the decision of this body.
Just so, unless someone makes a motion, I don't think we're making a decision on who to go with right now. I think what I'm asking is just feedback on the process so I can work with Madam Superintendent to get this organized so that we can present the options to you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Mr. President, I like the option that we did when we were looking for the contract negotiation, the council. I thought that was a very good practice for myself personally because you got to meet, discuss, and kind of get a sense of who will be representing us. So I like that practice personally.
Yeah, I think the one-on-one is great too because we can ask questions. We can do follow-up one-on-one for sure.
Okay, so one-on-one is different than the meet and greet. Are you asking for something different?
No, I guess meet and greet is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just wanted to make sure I would clarify because the meet and greet was kind of open. We all can come in.
That's fine.
Okay.
Well, that's why I was trying to eliminate 2 off the list because if we're doing meet and greet, that's 3 separate and distinct meet and greets. And so I know the challenges of getting, enough of us to be able to attend all of those to make it sort of worth the while. So 5 is definitely different than 3. I think mathematically that makes sense too. 5 is more than 3, isn't it?
Yeah, I just wondered if it could be a staggered meet and greet, because it's not like it's going to have to be an hour-long meeting. So I was just thinking in small increments, like they have a time window, we can come through. And if we're all there, it can just be, we can all be seated there and they come in and we meet, they leave after their 15 minutes or whatever.
Or we can do something where it's like I used to do carousel type activities. So it's kind of the same idea where you have multiple rooms and then a few people are in, each person and we kind of rotate.
That's fair.
And then that way that would eliminate us having to do multiple days.
Yeah.
So is that what we want to go with? Okay. All right. So the other question to Dr. Hall's point, would we like to see all 5? Do we want to narrow it?
I think Hall's, I'm in agreement with Hall. If it's going to be separate, I'm not against just a separate firm, just meeting with those who are from a totally different firm.
Okay, so that takes it from 5 to 4? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just if it's a separate firm. I think it should be, if it's going to be a different counsel, outside firm, even though, they may be able to operate 2 ways. I think just a clean, if you're going to have separate counsel, have 2 separate firms.
Okay. Anyone in disagreement to invite the 4 representatives here?
Well, I guess, as a practicing lawyer, doctor, the lawyers have a duty of confidentiality and, understand if the appearances we have someone who's not, independent of someone else we're already working with, they can't discuss what we say with the other lawyer. So it's attorney-client privilege is a real thing. It has to remain. So I wouldn't rule out the ones that we're already working with as possible options personally.
Well, I think we're only talking about one firm, which is the firm that is our vendor for our district attorney and board counsel currently at this one person. So I think that's what we're talking about. Do we add them, keep them on the list, or do we take them out? Your point is still taken. I just wanted to make sure I provided that clarity. Either way, I also want to just note that we are one district, and so no matter who we select, they will have to work together. And obviously, there's still some boundaries and areas that won't be able to be discussed, but we do want to make sure that, at least I wanted to make sure I said that this is still a working relationship as we're one district.
Yeah. Again, my comments were around personal preference. I think we're very familiar with Pebble and Wagner. I think we're very familiar with Wetzel and Andrus already. So us not talking to them is not in effect, eliminating them from consideration. We're just saying, well, we've talked to multiple attorneys at that firm, and we've talked to multiple attorneys at Pebble and Wagner. So, again, I think, and I mean, I think at least I, for one, feel like I have a pretty good grasp on the culture of those firms and how they operate. Having worked alongside folks in both those firms, in our board capacity, but I know nothing about Haverfield, Massey, or Ginkgo, right? So, again, so that's why I was suggesting, just bringing those three in for the carousel that we talked about. But again, I mean, I'm not, going to protest, bringing all five of them in. I'm just saying that I just think from a efficiency standpoint, that narrowing it down to three to me just makes a bit more sense. But that's my opinion.
So I definitely hear you. If I were to offer, I believe we did meet with Walter Haverfield in our meet and greets, if I'm not mistaken. But this is.
I think you're right, but not all the board members were actually able to make it to those meet and greets. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing I wanted to add, I think Superintendent just pretty much read my mind, is this is for a distinctly different purpose from the last round, and I think that we owe it to ourselves to look at whoever we're talking to from the lens of the purpose that we're looking for now instead of the purpose that we were before, or what we currently do with them in different capacities. So I don't think that bars us from narrowing it to three, but
all I was saying is that narrowing it to three just means that, I mean, we're just assuming that we've got some knowledge of those firms and how they operate. But again, our feet can do our bidding too, right? If you want to bring all five of them in, I'm only going to need to go to 3 of the 5 rooms for the carousel, right? I'm not required to go to all 5. But again, I mean, I'm open to whatever someone wants to do.
Is there any other discussions? Is there any synergy around eliminating 2? I heard some comments about eliminating 1. Any agreement on either of those, or is it all 5? I kind of need to hear something. So I heard from Dr. Hall and Ms. Jackson. So, Mr. Perry?
I would suggest all 5.
Okay. Mrs. McKittrick, same. Ms. Autry?
Yeah, I would like to hear from all 5. If we're coming, from a different perspective now of what we need them for, I'd like to see what we're choosing from all 5.
Okay, sounds good. I will work with Madam Superintendent to get this scheduled so that we can try to do it potentially somewhat like we did last time, right before the board meeting. So it's not an extra day. So let's see if we can make that work out. So I appreciate you for that follow-up. And any further comments or questions about board council options? Okay, seeing none. There's no new business to come before the board. And there is a need to recess into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 for the purposes of considering the employment of a public employee or official of the school district, and G4 for the purposes of reviewing negotiations and bargaining sessions with employees concerning compensation or other terms and conditions of employment. And so the president will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Dr. Hall and seconded by Mrs. McKittrick. Do a roll call vote, please. Mr. Pendleton.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as there does not appear to be any items coming to us as we return from executive session, if you choose to leave, thank you very much for being here. We will also be meeting on Monday, October 31st, for executive session only meeting for evaluation purposes. So there won't be any action items that day either. So thank you very much. And we now stand in recess at 7:50 p.m.